And hello again. This is going to be not a full tutorial, but really just a quick walkthrough, kind of a continuation to something we started, oh God, about 3 years ago. It was a demo or an animation flying over a bowl of cereal. And I don't know if you remember that. It was using the 3D designer with animation. Um, at the time, that was with Howler 6, and it was brand new. And so now we are looking at the same data, but flying through it with the ray tracer, Puppy Ray, and in fact with the GPU accelerated ray tracer. So let's have a look at what we just did here. I did a render. Let's do a quick fly through that. Camera move, camera zoom out, and then zoom in. Very strong zoom in. Flying, moving the camera around, and all sorts of camera movement there, changing the amount of skylighting or environment lighting, and flattening the elevation. Looks a little bit more like a big planet, or then increasing the elevation scale and looking down at it like bird's eye view. So this is something that used to take like a day to render, right? If you did this with on the CPU, your processor would be taxed quite a bit. It would be pretty busy rendering all these frames. And now with the GPU, if you have a good graphics card, this can go almost in real time, or maybe 1 second per frame. So let me just show you how I did that. I have a couple of images here, and the ones I used, I think this one here. And this one here is the elevation map, and this one's that's the original. Let me scale it in, scale to fit, so you can see it. This is really the picture of my morning cereal. In fact, I have it somewhere here. Let's go and, where is it? Browse, general file converter. I think I had it there. Let's go and open that again, looking for JPEGs. There it is. All right, so what you see here here's that original picture, right? In fact, let's just zoom that and take that into Dog Waffle right here, export to PD. All right, so this one's a pretty high resolution image, probably about 16 megapixel. Let's see what the resolutions, the image size, image info gives us. Oh no, it's actually not that big. I must have scaled it down. 1800 pixels by 1216, 1824 by 1216. Still, what we did is I took a portion of that, I cropped to maybe the inner part here. In fact, we can do that now with the new crop tool. Right here, and say for instance we want to have something like this. And let's say we want to focus on this, or maybe at a slightly different angle. This is where we can rotate now. We can say, let's grab this part, right? And perhaps a little bit bigger in this axis. There you go. Right click, crop. And so now we have selected that portion, and how do we turn this into terrain, 3D terrain? So one thing, we will use this perhaps as the color map, so there will be some brown regions and there will be some white regions. Of course, that's chocolate syrup, and there's some cream milk, and you can see the cereal here. So this is really a bowl of cereal, and it has evolved into a planet. So let's see how to do that. Let's go store this image. Might use it again. In fact, I'm going to copy it also to the swap buffer. Right? So copy to the swap buffer, because the swap image is going to be the one that's used for the actual coloring. Since this is the coloring we want to use, we want to make sure we put this into the swap buffer. And so now we turn this into an elevation map. Basically, you could use it just as is, but if you want to control a little bit better where the grays are, where the high bright values are, where the darks are, you might want to turn this into a grayscale. In fact, perhaps expose it through a color lens to say exactly, how it converts to a grayscale, and then perhaps invert it if you don't want the dark areas here, but rather here. You can invert it so that what is dark becomes bright, and that will be higher elevation. So let's go and invert this. And so that's the color map we have here. Now perhaps we want this to be more of an ocean surface, so we could add some coloring and so on, but let's just stick with this for right now. Let's go and store. Now, one thing I wanted to do also is to make this seamless, so that we can tile it in Puppy Ray and ray trace it, fly over it without seeing that seam. So that's one thing we do as well here. We'll go and look at making this seamless. And you could keep it at the current original size. You could also break into it a little bit more, let's say 27%, but you could also say, well, we're gonna need it smaller anyway, so let's keep let's not keep the original size and make this even smaller. All right, so that's that. Replace the current buffer. So this one is seamless, and that's the one we'll use. So let's store that. And what do we do with the color map that we had initially? I think I still have it there somewhere. It must be this one, I think. Let's double check. Yeah, looks like that's a perfect overlap. So this one I also need to make seamless. Okay. And that's really what, or maybe it's here somewhere. I don't know. I left it somewhere. And so whatever coloring you want to use, let's say it's this one. You want to make this one seamless too. So I'm going to, or maybe we actually have it here. Let's jump. No, that got erased. So let's go and turn this into a seamless picture too. Make seamless. This time 25. Yeah, I may have lost the correct one here. But you see the idea. Now I'm going to I'm going to ignore this coloring and simply use this one. Just elevation map, swap buffer is blank, and that's it. Now one thing I may want to do is also have this available as a sky dome. All I got to do is choose this as the custom brush. There's a custom brush selector. You don't have to have the whole image, just a white patch there. That will be the custom brush. And so now we use this, and we are ready for our planet. So I'm going to go and place it here, go to the filter, transform puppy ray, right? And this time let's go straight into the GPU accelerated one, and there we go. So this is now being rendered with the most recent settings I used. So that was high quality. I may want to bring it back down to medium or preview to go a little bit faster. But look at that, real-time navigation through the ray traced rendering. And with you can enable anti-aliasing. You can give it some extra smoothing between keyframes if you create keyframes. I think I may have some keyframes here. No, wait, I don't have right now keyframes. So let me do let me do the following. Let me put this in there, create an animation. That's basically the framework or the placeholder to create a frame sequence from this image. Right, copy the current frame. And it's going to need to be a 30 frames per second playback speed. And I want not just 30 frames, let's give it about 555. There you go. And that needs about 285 megabytes at this current dimension of the image. And you know what, we could go even bigger. We could go to 1234. Why not? That's 634 megabytes. I have a total of 16 gigabytes on this machine. Now this is still a 32-bit application, so you won't go and allocate all that. But we do have 12.8 gigs available. We can definitely go up to allocating 2 gigs of that. Right now with 634 megabytes, I'm really not pushing that. I could go to 3,000 frames here probably. Yep, 1,700 megabytes. But let's go with let's do 888. There you go. That's a lucky number. Let's go with that. And so now we have all these frames, and they are all identical, but we can now fly and navigate through that. All right, so that's what we'll do with Puppy Ray. Let's go right there, transform Puppy Ray GPU. And so the beauty of that now is that you can fly through that. You can program perhaps initially a bird's eye view, take the camera down like so, maybe look at it at a different angle like this, and also perhaps change the camera position, making it go a little bit further up. You do see a little bit of the seam here, or maybe the transition. Maybe my seamless tile is not perfect there yet. Anyway, so let's look at this, for instance, here as a starting point and keyframe that. And then let's go a little bit further into the animation. Oh wait, I still have the old keyframes. It remembers those. So I'm going to have to clear those and start from this one. Okay, so this one, that's the starting point. Then I go forward a little bit and I start moving. All right, so let's say I want to move forward. I'm flying over Serial, just let me remind you here. If I don't have the global illumination, it doesn't look this reddish. It's actually pretty dark, and the coloring in the reddish depends on what sky I choose, right? So if I have a bluish and enable the global illumination. That bluish sky is now shining onto the surface and giving you that coloring. And I can go and perhaps change it like so. And let's see what else. Oh, we had changed the camera. So I'm going to go up here. Normally you have this view. That's the condensed form. But if you click on more, you can see more. And you can also change the angle, the zoom here. So let's say I bring it down to 1. You have a very wide angle view. And I still want to fly, though, at the same time. So let's keep going like so. Keyframe that. Then I move forward and change it to a very high, strong zoom, 22, for instance. And still keep moving though, and keep moving forward like so. And then next keyframe, somewhere around here, I want to go and peek a little bit towards the horizon. There you go. And then I'm going to bring the zoom back down to something more reasonable. Let's say 2, or maybe a little bit more, 3. And okay, so other things I did, maybe I changed the position of the camera here as I'm flying into the land. Perhaps I want to see it actually with a different sky. Plain white, that's the one we loaded from the as a custom brush. And so here we can see it's just a plain white sky now. We might also want to change the fog to plain white, right? Because the fog, you can change the distance of it, and that's, you know, keep styling the terrain accordingly so that it's still visible. But you can see that the fog, you can also change it. It's not perfect white there initially. Maybe I make it more of a yellowish, and that looks very toxic, like flying through Venus atmosphere. Maybe we need some mountains to peek out a little bit more, so we can go and first of all increase. Oh, we need to light the brightness of the sun. There's some light that we need to see. So I don't know where the sun is right now. Let's go and bring it a little bit closer. It's one way or the other until we see it. There you go. This is bringing it much brighter. Okay, let's bring it down low so we cast some shadows. Oh, beautiful. Look at that. Now we have some shadows there. Keyframe that. A lot of things are changing here. Positions, angle, view, colors of the fog. Let's bring the fog really up close, dense, and then let's bring the camera low. Okay, and also bring the terrain. Let's scale the terrain up here. So now it gets very rugged. And let's keep flying through that. Maybe a little bit higher. There you go. Oh, the sun is now too low. I think I need the sun a little bit higher. Yeah, there you go. So we still see some of that. So you get an idea here of how to do work with this. We can fly through that terrain. Let's do one more thing. Let's change the angle for the last. Let's bring it back up. Let's, oh yeah, and also flatten it all the way down. So scale 0 and bring it up perhaps at the same time. So you kind of see it, it's going to lose its 3D depth here. Oh, and we have a seam here. I guess I did not, this particular image I did not make seamless. So my bad here. Let's do just one more thing, which is to change the camera angle to look it down, like a bird's eye view. All right, and so there it is. We now have a whole bunch of actions, all sorts of activities. It seems like we're doing we're changing the parameter so quickly, and with the spline interpolation there, it's overshooting, and so we have an inversion point. We may disable that, maybe with keyframes moving. No, maybe by going linear. Yeah. Yeah, but I think this will help if we keep it linear. Or if we have it like this. I think this should do some keyframes moving a little bit there. Anyway, this is something to be aware of. It might overshoot if you have sudden changes or very big changes in a short time frame. And that's just the nature of the spline interpolation. Let's try, for instance, the linear and go and render. So now here, this is where you'll go and do the final render. You can see what that looks like. If you want it even better than final render, we call that final. You can see that this one takes about 2 seconds. So I am on a GPU here. I am accelerated with the graphics processing unit, but it's not the latest and greatest and fastest. You probably have a faster GPU here. Mine's a GeForce GTX 560M mobile, 2 gigabytes of dedicated RAM, NVIDIA card. So it's good, but it's certainly not by any measure the latest and greatest. There are much faster GPUs out there now, and if if you're going to fly through that, you may not need to have it the highest resolution anyway, have the highest rendering quality anyway. If you're going to fly through this really quickly, there's just hardly any time to really see the changes as you go through it. So maybe high quality. Make sure you have the anti-aliasing. That certainly helps. And the interpolation also will smooth some colors a little bit, because if you don't, you can see here there's a little bit of traces or stepping will appear. Trace shadow we do want. Pre-filter, let's go, let's render that. So let's go like this and go. So now you see it render every frame ray traced with anti-aliasing, with interpolation, animation of a bunch of parameters, and each of these rendered so quickly you can it's like less than a second per frame. Now that will of course vary a lot by depending on what's going on in the scene, how far the depth of the fog is, therefore how many times the tiles are being replicated. It will also depend on the speed of your GPU. It will depend on so many other factors. But still, this is like several orders of magnitudes faster than doing the rendering on the software side, on the CPU. Now, so that's where we are coming with version 9.1 of PD Howler, and you'll need Windows 7 or Windows 8 in order to use the GPU in this manner, and of course you need a good GPU. But there it is. Thanks for watching. I'll show you a couple more animations that were rendered in pretty much this way.